Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim Matthews. Tim,
Oh, come on.
we're switching it up, brother. Tim, today we are going to talk about a topic that has been brought up several times to me through some of the men that are in in the movement. Usually these guys are on the periphery of the movement, I would say. And what I mean by that is they're not fully into one of our programs. And just reaching out to me through some of the comments, what came up is, hey, Doug, how can I tell if it's too late to save my marriage? Now, this is a question we get a lot, right? And a lot of guys want to know this. And I'll tell you what, when I was going through my shit with Erin, my wife, this is a question I came up with quite a bit for myself is it too late? Is this worth working on, right? And for these guys, it's more so the paradigm of, okay, the marriage has been going wrong for a while. The wife is obviously unhappy, right? She's at her wit's end and she's maybe thrown around the D word. Maybe she's just said, this is horrible. Their relationship's not working, Tim. And so what the guys want to know is like, gee, is it just too late? And usually the comment comes around a fight that they have with their wife. And, I'll set the scene for you. One of these guys in particular, he and his wife get in a heated argument, goes back and forth for about 30 minutes or so, and they're battling. And she just says, hey, look, I will never forgive you for the things that you've done, the things that you said. I'll never come back from those. You have permanently damaged me. You've permanently damaged our family. And the comment he made was, it's too late. It's too late to save this marriage. It's too late to come back. And one of the things that I was thinking about, and I didn't say this to him because I wanted to actually put this here on the podcast because I know he listens to it. But one of the things I was thinking of is, okay, how do you tell when it's too late? Right? This is an emotional response. He feels he's being attacked. So he responds by going into deer, right? He's defending, making excuses, explaining, reacting. And then how do you tell if it's too late? And he's basically saying, well, my wife is saying it's too late. So therefore, it must be too late to save my marriage. And Tim, I just disagree. I think there's one key element here that would give you an indicator if it's too late to save your marriage or not.
Yeah, I mean, for me, from what you've said there, the one key indicator is the emotional charge that she still has. A lot of guys think mistakenly that, we're getting along. We used to argue and now we don't. So, things aren't as bad. But sometimes that can mean that she's checked out. So sometimes arguments can be a very good thing, especially if they're heated, because it still shows that there's actually some emotion there.
I love that. And you know what? I didn't think about that. And I think that's a really good point that you make there. Because if she's still heated and she's still upset, she's upset because she's hurt, and she's hurt because she cares.
Exactly.
And I didn't think of that. The one that I came up with, and I saw this recently at our Alpha Reset. The one that I came up with is, do you still love her and want to be in the marriage? If that answer is yes, you have to have a yes or no. It's not going to be, well, Doug, or well, this. No, yes or no. Do you love her and do you still want to be married to her? Yes or no. And this guy told me yes. Then in that case, it's not too late. And they go, okay, how do you know? Well, here's how I know. We had a guy recently at our Alpha Reset whose wife not only moved out, separated, and was filing for divorce. It was over. It's two gone. She told him, never going to happen. It was just completely over. He went into the Brotherhood, which is our 1-year mastermind group program after the activation method, and went to an Alpha Reset. And not a week later, after the Alpha Reset, he posted a picture of he and his wife and his kids, I believe at a football game, having a great time, right? One step. And I share that with you because he made some decisions and some paradigm shifts. He burnt the boats, so to speak, and just did a deep dive on working on himself. He didn't do a deep dive on trying to fix his wife. He didn't do a deep dive and trying to convince her that he was the right guy. He didn't do a deep dive into trying to show her something. He did a deep dive in working on himself. And he became the man he always knew he was. Why? Because he loved her. And he said at that Alpha Reset, he said, I'm going to get my wife back. And it wasn't a question for him. It wasn't a question of, could I get my wife back? Should I get my wife back? Will she take me back? No. He even said, it may not be this week. It may not be this year. It may not be 10 years from now, but I will get her back. And it was that resilience that he had because he loved her so much and realized he was culpable for the mistakes in the relationship, which he was previously blaming her for. And he decided, I'm going to double down and be the best man I can be because that's the best thing I can do. And so when someone says, Doug, is it too late to save my marriage, to save my relationship? The answer to me is, if you still love that person and you want to be in relationship with them, then it's not too late. That doesn't mean that your wife or your partner is all of a sudden going to, like that, change and decide to take you back. I don't know how far gone your marriage is, right? Some of the guys that come to us and are interested in the activation method, which is our flagship program, they've left it till it's too late. They've listened to I listened to the podcast for over a year, and they join when it's too late, right? Their wife has already checked out. She's already filed for divorce. She's already moved on to somebody else, another man, typically. And they've left it till it's too late. Now, could they get her back? Maybe. That's a possibility. Like this guy I mentioned, it wasn't even a question for him, right? The guy that is getting his wife back now, that was at the Alpha Reset. This guy that asked the question, is it too late? Or basically made a statement because his wife said it. He's so far into deer mode, defending, explaining, right, excusing and reacting, that he's making an emotional response, thus not working on himself, right? Thus taking a back seat in the marriage. But to your point, the fact that his wife was so charged shows that she still cares.
Because one of the most dangerous places to be is when she becomes apathetic towards you, right?
100%.
And that lost all interest at that point. She's not bothered when you come home drunk, or you do something to offend her, or you even do something brilliant. It's just like, yeah, whatever. You just don't. She doesn't care. That's a very difficult place to pull it back from. But at the same time, if you're doing what you're saying, Doug, and if you're still living together, as well, that's helpful because then she can see the changes for sure. She can, that live as a king system, right? Part of the reason why it works so well is, to your point, what you were saying there about, being the best man you can be, transitioning out of Delia into Alpha. And part of that will mean that you'll start to shift up your routine, right? And that then can create mystery for her. It's kind of like, oh, what's going on over there? And then you start to rediscover your passions and your hobbies, and you start to do some of them. Oh, you become interesting again as well. Oh, it's just not all about work. It's just not all about either going to work or being at home tired. He's actually got some interests, some friends, some passions. He's interesting, he's exciting, right? And there's lots of other pieces to the Live as a King system. But when you're living together, it helps. When you're not living together, it can still pay off, especially if you've got kids together. One of the ways it's worked for men in the past is when they start to change up their routine, some of them involve the kids. I had one guy post in workplace about getting his son involved in the meditation, in the morning workouts, and just some of the little routines that can form part of the Alpha Rise and Shine. What do you think that child then does when he goes back home to his mum? Starts to say, hey, mom, daddy was doing this really strange thing today, right? So even when you separate it, it can still have the effect of, starting to pull her back in. We've had guys who have been living separately and the kids have been old enough so that they're not having to be involved in the Alpha Rise and Shine. The wife still found out because instead of, she heard from someone in the community that his business, which was a very prominent business in the community, very busy, very popular, was shut for an hour at lunch. One of the busiest times it would shut down. Why? So that he could attend the group calls for the activation method. He didn't tell her he was doing this. He just knew that, okay, if I'm going to be disturbed, this is more important for me. And as a result, when his wife heard of that, she then started to ask him, what other changes are you making? And because he's doing them for him, so he can be the best man he can be, and he's determined on winning his wife back, but he's not chasing her per se, then piques her interest. Oh, okay. And she starts to ask, and she then invited him to move back in with the family. But it all starts with, like you're saying, Doug, do you want to be married or not? Yes or no?
Yeah. And to that person, your actions, like you say, speak louder than your words. Right. So there's another guy I was speaking to, and his wife told him, I don't want your money. I want you. I want your presence. I want
Yep.
the man that I see inside of you. And yet this gentleman, great guy, but he's so stuck in this old story of his, which is easy to do, right? He's like, I just don't have the time. I don't have the cash flow right now to invest in high level coaching and help. And you look at this, and it's hard for us as coaches, right? And you guys listening know the answer to this already. Here he is. The number one thing in his life that he wants is a better relationship with his wife and his kids. Number one, top thing. His actions are saying something totally different. Can he afford it? Absolutely. Right. This particular guy has multiple properties, multiple homes. He makes, he could make enough to cover a year's worth of coaching in a month. Right. It's not about the money. Right. And as a coach, it's not about the money either. It's when people pay, they pay attention. Right. They invest in themselves, but it's also the time. Right. Like, what's more important to you? And I told this guy, I said, look, don't do anything with a powerful man movement. I'm fine with that. It doesn't change my day to day. It doesn't change the way my family eats. It doesn't change my income at all. It doesn't change anything for me. It just changes something for you. Go somewhere and work on yourself and your health. The two categories for this guy. Go somewhere and do it. If you don't have the cash flow, then just sell one of your extra cars, or, release a property if you have to, because what you're playing with in the back 40, right? The back 40 for guys that are over 40 years old, guys, and we're in the back 40 years of our life, right? The average age for a male in Western society is like 70 something, right? So we're past the back 40, but you're in the back 40, and all if you're worried about is accumulating wealth above relationships, and your priorities are just off. I was going to use a different word, but they are just off. And it's hard because we're so conditioned. We've worked so hard to build this. We've worked so hard for these things. And we buy these things to fill us up externally, to make us happy, right? You buy a new car, Tim, you just bought a new car. It makes you feel good. That new car feel is going to be gone in 6 months to a year, guaranteed, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I love nice things, as you know, Tim. I love to travel, and I can backpack, but I also like staying at a 4-star resort just as easily. At the same time, if my wife says, "Look, I want to spend time with you," and I say, "Oh, I don't have the time because I'm working so hard," but what am I working for? Right? What's the goal here? The goal is to work hard so I can spend time with my wife later on in our older years? No. We're too far gone then, and to this man and to you guys listening, this is the older version of me I'm talking to. It's, you kind of put your money where your mouth is, to use that phrase. It doesn't have to be money, but your time is. If you don't have enough time to work on yourself, to work on your marriage and be a better father, then what do you have time for? Is it your time is building a business that'll be gone when you're dead? Building income that you can't take with you, hoping that 10, 20 years from now, your kids are going to understand. Really? I mean, it just doesn't work, guys. It's not the way it works. That's a great thing to sell somebody if you just want them to be your employee and work for you. That's not the way it works. Your kids don't really, really, change their minds. Oh, daddy was just working until he was 65 and he made massive amounts of money and he dumped down the inheritance, but we never got to spend time with him. or he was never home, or your wife, or your soon to be ex-wife, whatever it is for you, if you love her and you want the relationship to work, it starts by working on yourself first. It's not too late. Now, maybe too late for your wife. That's possible. But the worst case scenario is you become a better man out of the situation. And we're going to do another podcast on this coming up, to talk about when it's time to leave a relationship. But right now we're saying, hey, is it too late? And to Tim's point, if your wife's emotionally charged, it's no on her side. It's not too late, right? Because she's not totally over it, right? And on your side, if you love her and want to be in the marriage, it's not too late for you either. But you need to make steps today, now, in this moment. You need to make steps. Maybe for you, it's joining the activation method. If you've done the activation method, maybe it's the brotherhood, the inner circle, whatever it is. But if not with a powerful man, I implore you to go somewhere else. Find another program that will work for you, or private coaching, or do something, right? Do something for yourself. I'm biased in the sense that I believe that the powerful man activation method and our programs are the best, or I wouldn't be involved in them. Right? That's the reason I got involved. It's because I think they are the best. And I've done just about everything, guys. But whatever it is, do something. Life's too short. Life's too short. And to the point, to this gentleman who also listens to the podcast, who went to the Alpha Reset and basically said, I said, why are you here? And his response was, I have no other options right now. And what he meant by that is he had options, but he said, I have to do this. I have to make this change in order to get my wife back. It wasn't a question for him. And he went there. And the proof's in the pudding. The proof's in the pudding. He's showing up as a different man not because he's asked her to change, not because she's not having sex with him enough, not because she's being nagging, not because she's whatever you want to say, but because of who he is showing up as. And that's the difference, guys. When we show up as men, when we show up as the lighthouse, directing our women in from the storm, being strong and stable, standing in our power, we shine brightly. And that's sexy to a woman. And that's going to be sexy to your woman in particular. So guys, there's two things right there. I know this is supposed to be the one way to tell if you're able to save your marriage. Tim threw a curveball in there, which was excellent, by the way, something I didn't think about, Tim. So I'm going to give you two. One, if your wife's still emotionally charged, right, in your relationship, she gets angry at you if you drink too much or whatever it is, there's still a possibility there. Not disappointment, but angry, right? There's still a charge there. Two, do you want it to work? Are you still in love with her? Not that you want her to work. You want it to work because it's shame. It's shameful if you divorce or you feel guilty. But do you really, in the bottom of your heart, love her and want to be with her for the remainder of your days here? If that answer is yes, then you got time. You can do this. And just like this guy said, hey, Doug, it may not be a week. It may not be a month. It may not be a year. It may not be 5 years, but I'm going to get her back. If you have that kind of determination, then it's not too late for you, brother. You can do this.
Well said. Well said. It reminds me of, when you guys first got together. I imagine you had a level of commitment and conviction around, wow, she's hot. I'm going to get her. And you went all in dating her or whatever it was, right? And sometimes the charge is, hey, I want to get laid. But either way, whatever it is, the point I'm making is that energy that you have going all in the early days, it's almost like reckless abandon. You're all in and you don't care whether you're going to get rejected or not. You're just in. That's the same kind of energy you get to bring to this. If you are yes, I do. There's no yes, I do if, or yes, I do but, or yes, I do, yes, I do. Go all in. Go all in.
Love it. Love it. Gentlemen, it's not too late for you, but you do need to take action now. And as we always say in the moment of insight, take massive action and do it today. Don't leave it till it's too late, guys. Don't be that guy who calls us up and wants to speak to one of our advisors and says, look, I've been listening to the podcast for over a year, but I just wasn't ready at that time. And now my wife's filed divorce papers. January is coming up. Divorce Day is around the corner. It's a historic day. If you go back, we have other podcasts about Divorce Day. The stats are amazing. Over 70% of divorces are initiated by women, and a lot of them happen in January. And we're recording this the end of September. It's going to be released in October. Guys, it is around the corner, and it is your time now. Take massive action. Reach out, get on a phone call with one of the advisors, have a conversation, see if it's the right fit for you. If it's not, go somewhere else. Totally cool, but I want you guys to take action. Gentlemen, that's a wrap for us at the Powerful Man Show. We'll see you next time. As always, take massive action, and we're in your corner.